Hello, everyone, and welcome to the election forum of Peabody's school committee candidates. On behalf of the Peabody Area Chamber of Commerce, I want to take the time to thank all of you for being here and taking the time yourselves to be here today. Thank you to today's moderator, David Olson, editor with the Salem News, who's also a Peabody Area Chamber board member. Thanks, Dave. Thank you also to today's forum sponsors, the City of Peabody, the Salem News, and Peabody TV, who is doing the recording behind the scenes today. Without further ado, I will introduce our school committee candidates. We have incumbents Beverly Griffin Dunn and Jared Hockman, and we have candidate John Swanson. Thank you all for being here today. And I will now hand it over to Dave Olson to review formats and take it from here. Thanks, Dave.
Great, thanks, Beth. Yeah, we keep things pretty straightforward here. We're going to give you each 2 minutes for an opening statement, and then we have 5 or 6 questions that we're going to go through, and everybody will have 2 minutes to answer. And I ask we try and keep as close to the 2 minutes so we can get all the questions answered. And we'll jump right into it, and we'll start with Beverly Griffin Dunn. You have 2 minutes for an opening statement.
Okay. Well, I want to say thank you for doing this, because I think it's so important to let the voters know where we stand on various issues. And this is a great opportunity to be able to, for all three of us to be able to, reach out and touch the voters and the community and let people know where we stand. I'm a longtime member of the school committee, and I'm really very humbled by the experience that I've had. I'm a local attorney. I have my office right here in downtown Peabody. My husband, Bob, and I have 4 children who have all gone through the Peabody Public Schools, are all proud graduates of PVMHS, as am I. And so we've experienced the Peabody Public Schools from every different angle. And being a part of those schools and growing up here in Peabody is what really made me want to continue to serve and to be able to participate in local government, especially with schools, because to me, education is the foundation for everything. Our children, again, they're all graduated now and they're doing very well. And I always explain to people how good the programs were and still are. And the goal has always been for me to continue to improve our schools. And it's a really important piece of just civic responsibility for everyone to step forward and to participate with education. Even if you don't have children in the schools, our system does affect every taxpayer in the city. My experience on the school committee is something that I am very, very happy with and very proud of. I always do my homework and I participate in every possible training that's available for school committee members and elected officials. In addition to serving on the Peabody School Committee, I'm also the Peabody representative to the Essex North Shore Agricultural and Technical School, where I serve as secretary to the committee and as chairman of the admissions subcommittee. I'm a member of the Mass Association of School Committees, and I serve as the Division I chairperson. And that is a very enriching experience. And I know that the things that I have experienced there and have learned have helped me be a good school committee member here in Peabody as well. And here, I'm the chair of the Quality and Standards Subcommittee, and I'm also the chair of the Welch School Building Committee after having finished as chair of the Higgins School Building Committee. So life is always very, very interesting on school committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Jared Hockman.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks to the Salem News and the Peabody Area Chamber of Commerce for hosting this event. I agree with Bev. It is important, and you too, Dave, that even though this is a uncontested race, that voters get a little more of a sense of what the three of us think and how we feel and why we're where we are. So I have 3 daughters who, my oldest daughter is a sophomore at Lesley University. I was at Fenway with her last night to watch a great Red Sox game. My middle daughter is a freshman at Essex Tech. I was with her at Fenway last Monday to watch the clinching game against the Rays. And my youngest daughter, Lainey, is a 7th grader at the Higgins Middle School. I was at Fenway with her last Sunday for Game 3 of the American League Division Series against the Rays, all of which the Red Sox won. I To be completely honest, I'm finishing up my 12th year in the school committee, and I was a little hesitant to run for reelection. I thought about it an awful lot. 12 years is a long time, and as Beverly said, it's time consuming. It's wonderful work. I enjoy the work. It takes you away from your family and from other aspects of your life, and there are a lot of other things that we all do in the community to give back. And but with the way the composition of this committee is, I'm really proud of some of the work that we've done very recently. How we handled the 2020 school year once COVID-19 came upon us, and how we navigated through that with an agreement with all of our bargaining units to allow for hybrid education through most of the school year, which is, I think we were the largest school district in the state, perhaps, to have a hybrid model right from day one last September, and to have full 5-day in-person schooling for March, April, and May, the end of March, April, and May, and June, I thought was really good. We don't agree on everything, but we debate and we work through the problems, and we treat each other with dignity and respect. So a lot of those reasons are why I decided to come back. Thank you.
Thank you. John Swanson.
Good morning. David, Beth, actually appreciate the invite. Thank you, Peabody Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, Salem News, for the invite. And I agree with Jared and Beverly. Obviously, very strange that I'm unopposed. I'm appreciative of the opportunity to step up. And I appreciate the opportunity to get my word out. I've been trying to get out, meet the public, meet the teachers, and meet the parents, make sure that they are aware of who I am, even though I'm unopposed. I want people to be checking that box come November 2nd with confidence. I've been in Peabody for 21 years now. I have three sons, Nathaniel, Avery, and Elijah. Nathaniel and Avery just graduated Peabody Veterans Memorial High School. They've gone on to the University of Maine, and I've been doing great there. Had a great educational experience studying at the Brown School, Higgins, and the high school. And now I have my son Elijah, who's a sophomore at Peabody High now, and he's doing very well. I want to step out from behind the shadows. I've been working years with volunteering, working with the government organizations in the background. I think it's time that I step up. I put myself out there in the public, and I want to help this school committee. I want to help the teachers and the parents continue to move our school systems forward. My background is I'm an engineer, so I'm very interested in the sciences and engineering. I'm also very interested in the performing arts. So I cherish those programs that we have in our schools. We have award-winning marching band. We have award-winning public performances, and I think we grow around that as well. So,
Great, thank you very much. And we'll start with the question. And the first question, we start with Jared Hochman. And the question is, we'll start on a positive note. What do you see as a strength of the Beverly Public Schools?
Well, I can't speak about the Beverly Public Schools, but
sorry, this is my fifth debate in 3 days, so you know.
I will give you a positive for Beverly.
Yeah, there you go.
Orange, my favorite color, and the colors of.
Let's try. It's like the debates where you say something nice about your opponent. Let's try Peabody Public Schools. Give me, what are the strengths of the Peabody Public Schools?
Sure. I mean, I can't answer that in 2 minutes, Dave. There's so many strengths of Peabody Public Schools. And it really starts around our people. It starts around our staff. It starts around our principals, our administrators, and our students. It flows down to our students. We have such wonderfully talented students who are able to engage in fantastic academic programs. I think we boast the highest AP level in the region. Number of course offerings, number of students that take AP courses. We have New Higgins Middle School, which is a wonderful state-of-the-art facility, and Beverly did a wonderful job chairing that committee and putting that dream into fruition. We have terrific extracurricular activities. We have wonderful coaches at the high school level, at the middle school level for athletics. As John alluded to, we have very, very talented arts and music program and drama programs. We have a host of of folks that really support our kids and allow them and encourage them to grow. We have community service opportunities that all of our kids engage in, something Mayor Betancourt put into place as a requirement for graduation during my time on the school committee and Beverly's time on the school committee, which is really fantastic watching high school kids participate in community service. And it starts out as, I think, a requirement for them, and it turns into hopefully a lifelong fulfillment. And it's, again, part of the learning process. Peabody education goes, from sunrise to from waking up in the morning to falling asleep at night. It doesn't all take place in buildings. It doesn't all take place with paid faculty. We have a lot of fantastic programs going on here. We do need some things, though, Dave. I don't know if that's a follow-up question.
It will be. Yep.
Yeah, so I'll stop here, but thank you.
Okay, John Swanson.
Don't have much more to add from what Jared said. Obviously, it starts with our administration. It starts with our teachers, the paras that are in our schools, everybody that is educating our kids, again, from kindergarten all the way through high school. We know from last year that they've put a tremendous effort into making sure that our schools did not fall behind. They transitioned quickly to remote learning, and that is a success that we've had. We are not as far off as other communities are, because we got back so quickly. We got back into schools. So again, it starts with our educators. It starts with our teachers. And from there, I think a strength actually is our students. We have students that are engaged, and it comes from the well-craftedness, the well-roundedness of our students. The education we're giving them, the opportunities we provide to them, things, as Jared said, such as volunteerism in the community. It is a requirement, but I'm measuring from not only my children, but those that are their friends and those that I've seen come through. They start out in middle school, starting out volunteering and searching. Their parents are helping them find volunteer situations. By the time they're in high school, they're finding their own. They're looking to participate, and they're growing as young adults in that opportunity. And I think another strength that we have in Peabody as a whole that benefits all of our students is our well diversity. We live in a community that is a very dispersed demographic. We have those that are working very hard, and we have those that have done tremendous things in their lives, and their children are benefiting from it. So in our schools, the children are exposed to each other, and they again are well-rounded when they come out, and they're prepared for the real world when they come out of school.
Thank you. Beverly Griffin Dunn.
Thanks, David. I'm going to have to build on what Jared and John both said, because they've listed so many of the great parts of our school system that I would reiterate what they've said. We've got great course offerings. We've got great opportunities for all of our students. But I think an overall accomplishment that I will stress is the fact that we've always been willing to try some new things. If you look back over the history of this district, we do have a lot of firsts, not just that happened recently, because of COVID, but people may forget we were one of the first communities to have free full-day kindergarten for every student. That was unheard of back when we started it. At the same time, we worked to have a guidance counselor in every school. That was unusual in local communities. People didn't have that, and Peabody did. And it came at great sacrifice, I will say, because those are budgetary concerns, but the community supported it, and we were able to follow through and provide those things to the citizens of Peabody. Even now, we have the Learning Academy that was sponsored by the Simon Youth Foundation, and it's a great partnership with the Simon Foundation and, of course, with the North Shore Mall. That was a really big idea when it took place. We now have a community school, and we are one of the only communities in the state, I think there may only be 4 or 5, who have an improved remote academy, which just started here in Peabody, and it's been a wonderful opportunity for students. So we really do look at things with an eye towards moving forward when we know there's a need, and then fighting to get that implemented. And I think that's one of the great pieces of Peabody that we understand. We have to look to the future and try to help our students where they are now so that they will be able to go forward and succeed as they move on. And David, one other thing, Beverly is a successful school community because their superintendent is a product of the Peabody schools.
That's true. Okay. Okay, so the next question, we start with John Swanson, but I think this is what Jared was getting at. What do you see as the biggest challenge for the schools coming out of the throes of the pandemic and looking ahead?
So start with coming out of the pandemic. I think our elementary schools, they need help, they need guidance, they need support. We have kids that are truly coming into the schools for the first time ever in the first and second grades. They need the teachers need the support there. They need to make sure that they have plans to bring the kids into a routine, something they lost. And I know that it's not easy, but they'll work through it. They have a great support organization. They have each other, and they just need to put a plan into place or implement plans in place to get them up to speed and get those kids into a structure. So it's challenging in that aspect of things for the students and the teachers as they're coming into school for the first time and trying to meet criteria that they should be in first or second grade, but they have to start building some foundations. Other things, obviously, our buildings and our structures. The school committee, the mayor have always been working for that. We have obviously some hurdles to get over, budgetary, the state. It's an application process. We have to wait in line, but those are the shells. They create the environment for learning, but they're filled with great students and teachers that work around those obstacles. So again, those buildings will help improve our education, help us move forward, help us bring technology into the schools that might not be able to be built in a cost-effective manner today, again, because of the legacy of their structure. And I think one of the hard parts is parent involvement. Again, as we have a very, very diverse demographic in our city, how do we keep the parents engaged and help drive the children forward? It's something that I don't think we're going to be able to answer on this forum, but we want to make sure that the parents are engaged, make sure that the parents are taking and helping their kids when they go home, the students when they go home with their homework, and making sure that they're getting the help that they might need if in school when they're as they identify it. So it's they had a challenge last year. I think we're all doing well, but I think it's some of the hurdles we can work to overcome in the long term.
Great, thank you. Beverly.
Oh, gosh, the challenges that really have been pointed out, having, we're coming out of the pandemic, we hope. It's amazing to finally see society understanding the true value of education and what has been put upon education all these years and never recognized. The old saying, you don't know what you got till it's gone. Well, during the pandemic, when the schools closed, I think everyone realized that the kids have been going to school to get an education. But going to school also allowed parents to go to work. It protected children who needed protection. It provided food for children, sometimes clothing for kids. All of those things had been going on for years in the schools, but never quantified and never recognized for the monetary cost alone of what was going on in schools. Now we understand, and other people understand, that going to school is not just one limited involvement. It benefits society on so many levels. And the schools have been doing it on a shoestring. Being on the school committee, there are always very, very difficult decisions with the budget. And we've faced it so many times about, can we hire a librarian or teacher? What about school counselors? We need that. Well, we can only hire one and we need 15. Those things have always been going on. And now people are seeing how vital they really are, because you have to have healthy children, not just body, but mind, being able to attend school and ready to learn. There are a lot of pieces to make those students ready. And over the years, volunteer efforts have taken place. The teachers, they're the ones that lay awake at night thinking, oh my gosh, how can I get a coat for that little boy in the first seat on the first row? What about that little child? That's been going on all along. And now people are seeing how it really and truly operates. So looking at a very difficult situation coming out of the trauma of the pandemic, I always believe that you have to look for the good in every experience. And I think this is good because people are finally understanding it isn't just book learning. It's the basis of our society.
Thank you. Jared.
Yeah, thank you, David. Great question. As John alluded to, we clearly have regression academically with kids who are at home. And as Beverly said, that's largely in part because of the value of teachers and in-person learning. We got back to that as quickly as we were able to last spring. We're continuing that. We opened up this year full in-person learning 5 days a week. We need to continue with that. Budgetary issues really aren't, an issue now with all this federal money coming in with the ESSER grants, and we were able to add 3 psychologists to address some of the concerns or the thoughts that Beverly and John identified with students who, did experience some trauma during the course of COVID, whether it was loss of a family member or loss of someone that they knew. There were real traumatic life events that took place or are taking place. Moving forward, I'm confident that regression that we see and we saw in some of the MCAS scores is surmountable with the additional funds that we are getting from the government. We didn't have to cut positions with this year's budget. We added positions. I don't even know that they're all filled because we're still having a hard time filling positions, but hopefully they do get filled and we do get services to students. Structurally, we need a new high school. It has to be a priority. It is a priority with the school committee. And that's, again, another reason that I'm happy to be back for another 4 years. I'm hoping in my this term that we see a high school approved by the MSBA and we can start breaking ground and building a new school. We have other structural issues, particularly at the center school, which is in difficult shape right now. But moving forward too, we need to get back to, David, you talked about coming out of the pandemic, and I'm not quite sure that we're really all there. And it might be psychological or more of a mental thing than physical at this point. But we need to get kids out of masks. We need to get kids back in school, living their lives as they did pre-pandemic. I believe we just heard that Johnson & Johnson, the vaccination was just approved for people and encouraged for people, I think, as early as 18 to take a booster shot as opposed to Moderna and Pfizer, which were suggested or recommended for people 65 and over. So hopefully we work towards vaccines for people under 12 so that elementary school and middle school kids can all who want to be vaccinated can get vaccinated, and we can get past masking as well.
Thank you. Okay, our next question, and we start with Beverly, and it's a kind of a little bit of a follow-up. What are your thoughts on the remote academy program? Do you see a need for it going forward, even as, again, as schools elsewhere, strive for a return to normalcy?
Actually, David, I do see the need for it. It was very interesting, the data that came forward for our district about some children doing better remotely than in class. And again, this is one of the things that I appreciate of our district, with a forward-looking direction on how best to help our students. And for the students who did do better remotely, they have that opportunity now. And I do think it's going to continue, even post-pandemic. There are still some families who need to have their students isolated for health reasons at the home. And I think that's important to recognize, because this is still a very difficult time for everyone. The pandemic isn't over. And I think that it's going to give us a good idea on really a very modern way of looking at education, and being able to use the good pieces of remote learning that we will discover as it goes forward and apply those to the whole district. So I don't know where we'll go in say 10 years or 20 years down the road. But right now, for the next couple of years, I think it's actually good, because it's helping people who need something different than the in-person learning. And if it helps a student to be able to be successful, then I think we have to explore it. We have to support it. And I actually think it's good. I've heard from some parents who are very, very pleased with how their child is doing in the remote academy. And that makes me feel much better too.
Thank you. Jared.
Yeah, so this is really new, right? We're in the second month of the remote academy. I voted in favor of the remote academy. I think Chris Lord is an extremely talented administrator, and he's the one running the program for us. I'm a little more skeptical of the future of remote learning. I do understand, and I voted in favor of it because of the times we're in, and I'm hoping we get past these times a little bit quicker. I am concerned with younger students, in particular, elementary age students, middle school students, engaging in remote learning. I don't think there's any doubt of the value of a teacher in front of a student and the interaction that takes place in a classroom, and the value that that brings to the student. We see that in the data coming out of the pandemic. I worry about the social emotional side and piece for students who are in their homes or wherever they are while engaging in remote learning, and their lack of interaction with other peers. That concerns me an awful lot, and I think that there might be some long-term ramifications of that. I don't know. I am keeping an open mind and looking very closely as to what is going on in the remote learning academy, so that I can educate myself and determine how I plan to vote in the future on this. We did approve it for 1 year in the Peabody school system to give it an opportunity, like I said, under the times that we're living in. But moving forward, I am frankly hopeful that we're not talking about this in a couple of years, and that all students are back to in-person learning in school, interacting with their peers, developing social skills that Beverly talked about, all of the wonderful things that take place in school buildings that aren't education related, and interacting with peers and social learning and talking, not only that, but having the opportunity to talk to guidance counselors and principals and teachers about concerns that students have, whether it be in their family dynamic or something going on with their peers, and having resources that our teachers and staff members are for our students outside of the educational format. So I have an open mind, but I'd prefer to see students in school if I had my way.
Thank you. John Swanson.
I'm for the remote learning. I think it gives our again, in these times, it gives our students and parents an option, something that they might have gone outside the district to look for because they had concerns about the environment we live in right now. So it keeps them in our community. They're learning on pace with our students that are in the high school, in the middle school, and in the elementary schools as well. So if they decide to come back to school, there won't be a big gap when if they were coming outside of our district back into our schools. I also think with them being part of our district, though remote, it allows them to participate in sports and other extracurricular activity. That is not going to solve all the psychological or emotional issues, but allows some interaction there as well. Again, if they were outside of our district, we didn't have these students in our programs, would they be participating in our high school extracurricular activities? I do have concerns, just as Jared does, about the psychological and emotional issues. Being remote, being in front of those teachers, having access to guidance, having access to psychologists and whatnot. The support that is definitely in a school But for right now, I'm definitely supporting of it, and I think it was a good option for our district.
Thank you. Okay, our next question, and we start with Jared, and just I think you touched on this a little bit in one of your previous answers. How concerned are you overall on the next generation MCAS results that were released a few weeks ago? That kind of shows Peabody students trailing the state averages.
Frankly, not at all. Not a big fan of standardized tests. We do need benchmarks to quantify student achievement. But MCAS was never a huge concern of mine. I'm actually disappointed that various outlets use it as a criteria for ranking our schools, and I think that there's so much more going on in our schools, and it doesn't take, John mentioned earlier the diversity that Peabody has, that Concord doesn't have, that Lexington doesn't have, that Newton doesn't have. When we look at high ranking schools, primarily based on MCAS results, and we're seeing 99 point something % Caucasian English first language learners. And I'm proud to live in Peabody because of the diversity. I'm proud of the, I love going into Ward 3 and in September, and families are making wine in their basements or in their garages because it's a cultural thing, and or in West Peabody, the same thing. And I love that. I love that we have the International Festival and we celebrate all of the differences among us. It's one of the many things that makes Peabody spectacular. MCAS results, I'd rather talk about the Red Sox being in the American League Championship Series and the number of our kids that are watching, sportsmanship and teamwork and all the wonderful things that they learn, in school and in extracurricular activities. You want to see the quality of a Peabody high school student come to any of the community service activities that they perform. They may not perform well on an MCAS test, and it might be partially because of environment at the high school or environment at the center school. And I think that factors in to education, but it's certainly not a reflection on the quality of teachers that we have or the quality of course offerings that we have. No offense here, Dave, but tell the state to take their MCAS and put it somewhere.
Is that my job? Okay.
Commissioner Riley doesn't listen to me anymore.
John Swanson.
Actually, in agreement with Jared. I think standardized testing, there's too many variables there. You'll have kids that are going to excel to it. You're going to have kids that struggle with it, but they're good students. It doesn't speak to the programs we have in the school. It doesn't speak to the environments around Peabody and all that's going into it. I'm not a fan of the MCAS. And how we compare to Massachusetts, as Jared alluded to, how can you compare us to the greater of Mass? We should be compared. If we're to be compared, we should be comparing to districts that have similar makeup as ours, size, demographics, as Jared alluded to. Also, in how big is the English as a second language? How hard is it for those students to take these tests and be compared to somebody that is from Wellesley? That nothing personal against Wellesley, but they're a different demographic from ours. They're going to do better than we are as a whole. We have students that excel in the tests, and we have students that struggle, and I don't think it's a good measure for how we're doing. They should be revamping how they're measuring our school systems, how they are pulling all of the influencers on our students and truly see how we're doing. We're struggling in MCAS, but we have kids that are coming out of school and being very successful in starting businesses. We don't do good in the MCAS. We have kids that are coming out of school and going to WPI, going to some of the greatest schools in the country. Even the colleges have stopped requiring standardized testing. It's optional. Yeah, it's a great check mark for them, but they've stopped in it because they know the measurement isn't really there.
Great, thank you. Beverly.
I'm on the same page as Jared and John, and I've said it for a long time. The MCAS exam is just one snapshot in time of a student's educational experience in the district. It's measuring something in one day. And it doesn't look at the whole child. It doesn't look at their entire experience. It doesn't look at where they're coming from when they take that test. It's very frustrating to see the amount of weight that that test is given. And it's exactly what we said was going to happen when they first brought MCAS into the mix, that it was going to be used to judge and to rank communities. And we were told, oh, no, it won't. Well, the very first thing that happened was a correlation between MCAS scores and housing prices. And it's so frustrating to see those types of ranking going on continuously, even now, because it's, in my mind, it's an abuse of a test. If it was really, truly valid, this is such a small point, but it means, it says something to me. The school districts get the results. They're embargoed. They're not allowed to release those results. The state releases those results, and immediately we are all ranked, and there are articles in every newspaper and TV show around. And then the families get the reports. They're the last people, the student, through their parents, they're the last people to read their scores. If this test was truly valid, the first people to get that result, it would be the same day that the teachers and the parents get it, so that then the teachers and parents could work together to either improve someone's work, or to at least examine it, and then it could be reported to the rest of the state. But instead, it's a great big press release, and within 24 hours, the real estate agents are going crazy, the advertisers in newspapers are going crazy, and that's MCAS. It's frustrating.
Okay, last question, and we start with John Swanson. How do you communicate with your constituents? I mean, you have parents and teachers and senior citizens. It's a wide, where school is very focused on the school, but your constituency is the whole city. How do you keep them up to date on what the school committee is doing and what's going on in the schools?
So I obviously I'll lay out my plan. So not in a position yet. So people reaching out to me now, I start out with my message on the Facebook, but I'm open to people that have reached out to me. I'll have phone calls. I have providing my email. I'll be using social media to keep people up to date in some of the issues, some of the events going on. Honestly, I'll be very frank for those that are watching. I would probably not engage in Facebook in communications. I will have communications with individuals in discuss their concerns, their support, however they want. And then I was a director on the Peabody Little League. Obviously parental concerns there as well. I was always available from there. I'm going to scale it up from there. I want to be able to be reached by the parents. It might be after 5, 6 o'clock after my normal day job. If it's something that's important, it might be during the day. But my communication is going, and it might even be coffee. We'll go get some coffee. I've had a couple of those meetings already in my run for school committee. I have no problem. I actually rather a face-to-face. My entire career, my entire being an individual is based on relationships. I'd rather have those face-to-faces. I don't like the phone to get through emotional things. I want to see how people are reacting. I wanted them to see my feedback. So there'll be a time and place for using all of the different medias that are out there, and I plan to use them all.
Thank you. Beverly.
Thank you. Communication is key to our position, to the district. It's just so important. So I utilize email, telephone calls, social media, just meeting people on the street. It's not unusual for me to take 2 or 3 hours to buy a gallon of milk because if there's a controversial issue out there and everybody comes up to talk to me, I think it's important. That's my job, to hear what they have to say, to be able and available to them to get the answers. If I don't have an answer, then I follow up and get the information for them. One thing about communications, I mean, that's my personal goal always, is to be able to reach out to people, to be available to answer them, and to work with them, because this is their district. On another level, as a school committee member, I have great frustration with the communications from our district. I am always fighting about our webpage. It's really frustrating because there's so many good things that go on in the school district. Trying to get that word out is just as important as being able to answer people and let them know what's happening and be able to address their individual issues. And that's why, David, I will call the newspapers and say, hey, did you know this was going on? And we can always do better on an institutional basis as well with communications, because that is the most important thing. But making people understand how important their concern and issue is really key to being a school committee member.
Thank you. Jared.
Yeah, thank you, David. Before I answer the question, I want to thank Beverly and John for participating in this forum with me. I look forward to working with Beverly for 4 more years and getting to know John in a different facet, and working with him for 4 years as a school committee member. I'm extremely encouraged for what the next 4 years hold for us. We have a terrifically talented group, which includes Joe Amico and John Olympio and Brandy Carpenter, and talented, superintendent and Josh Vidala, assistant superintendents and leadership team. Yeah, communication. To answer your question, David, it's in all forms. John, it's not going to stop at 6 or 7 o'clock. It's going to continue on the weekends and into the wee hours and early hours. Issues. I think we as a school committee individually do well with communicating. We're all available by email, by social media, by telephone, in the supermarket, at a restaurant, at a grocery store. Wherever we are, we're responding. On ball fields. People have a way of finding us when there's something important to them. I know for me, my email address is out there. My cell phone number is out there. I've constantly contacted on social media outlets as well. We do okay as a district. I agree with Beverly. We could do better. We do have a Connect Ed phone call system, which has helped and has been implemented in the last, or improved, I should say, in the last 6 or 7 years. And we use it more frequently, and sometimes too frequently, perhaps. But we get the word out when there's an issue going on. And we do use media outlets like the Salem News, and dare I say that other publication in a neighboring city a little bit to the south. So we can always do better, but I think we do a pretty good job individually.
Great, thank you. And thank you, everybody. This has been, I think it's been a good, informative session for voters. Thank you to Peabody TV, and the Peabody Chamber of Commerce for putting this on. And I would remind everybody that November 2nd is Election Day. So thank you all again.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Dave. Thank you all.
Thank you.